Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Beacon, a home for those who have a passion for filmmaking and the unusual. The Haunted Hiddensdale House. Those who walk there do not walk alone. Paraware, apparel for the action-seeking paranormal investigator. Dragonfly art and soul for all of your magical, metaphysical, and spiritual needs. Mystery Control, your go-to feed for science, magic, true crime, the paranormal, and so much more. Paraniagara, one of the top-rated destinations in Western New York. The Black Cat Lounge is part of the Paraflix Entertainment Network. Everybody, Tim Shaw here. Is so great for you guys to be here. And as you can tell, I have my hoodie on. Why? Because it's a little bit chilly here in Western New York. A little chilly. It's been like around 19, 17 degrees around here, but we haven't had a lot of snow. Yesterday we had a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. So thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight here in the frozen tundra. What can I tell you? We've got a great show for you tonight. Really a fantastic show, and I can't wait to really delve into this topic, because it's a topic that so many people don't really understand. It's a topic that a lot of people kind of just look at and just kind of put off to the side. And I think it's just so interesting. It's just so interesting. And, you know, as someone who lived through so much of the insanity, and we'll talk about the satanic panic and all that coming up, to me, I remember the headlines as a kid, all these crazy headlines, criminals and crime, and everything was always, you know, hooked into, you know, Satanism and all that. So we're going to talk about some of these crimes that may or may not have had a basis in the occult or paranormal or whatever. But anyway, hey, I want to thank everybody who gave some canned goods and money to my good friend of mine, Tony Bravo, for his Cans for Cookies. And he is part of the Fear Company here in Buffalo, New York. And I am so thankful that he is part of it. And we had a little thing up at the Western Block in Lockport, New York, where we were able to go and raise some food and fill up the back of his truck with donations. So we were so thrilled to be a part of it, but so thankful that they did. And you know what? Bewitched Buffalo is a witchy dance group, and they have been raising all sorts of money, and they've been giving like items to Haven House here in Buffalo, which is a organization for abused women. And it's so important. So guys, you guys know how much I am just like constantly harping on you poor people about giving back, helping with preservation. You know what? Whatever you bring in, you guys got to give back. And real quickly, I just want to say, hey, Joanne, how are you? So good to see you. Diana, how are you? Diana, it's good to see you. And the legend himself, John Kennedy, from up in the frozen north, the tundra, the true tundra up in Sault Ste. Marie. Good to see you, John. Good to see you. Anyway, we've got a great, oh my God, we got a great guest tonight, guys. Ready? This introduction will not give this person the due honor that he deserves, because of the fact that he just blows my mind, because of the fact that he is so accomplished. So anyway, let me just start, guys. Anyway, my guest tonight is a professor of criminal justice, anthropology, and forensic studies at the Edinburgh University in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. Dr. Richards maintains an active research agenda that focuses on criminal victimization of refugees and mental illness among first responders. Very, very big. That's huge. It's huge. He is regularly published in peer-reviewed and popular publications and frequently presents at regional, national, and international conferences on criminal justice matters. He's a Fulbright Senior Specialist in the Department of Criminology. I'm going to kill this. I'm sorry, George. Raksha Shakti University in India.
Very good.
Thank you. I did it. I've been practicing. I was practicing, George. Anyway, among his other duties, George is currently a member of the President's Diversity Council in Edinburgh University. He is also chaplain for first responders, as well as training to become a life coach. Now, tonight, we will be talking about a topic and his upcoming class. And you know what? If you're a student there, this has got to be mind-blowing. This is a class that I would take because it is just so interesting. We're going to be talking about this class that generates so much interest among students of the occult and, of course, criminology. So let's welcome to the Black Cat Lounge the one and only Dr. George Richards. Hey, George, how are you?
Good evening, Tim. I'm on the Black Cat Lounge. I have made the big time.
Aim higher, George. Aim higher. Hey, thanks for being here.
It's my honor.
You know what, George? I have to tell you that this was a topic that is so misunderstood. And off air, we were talking about, one of my, research projects I've had over the winter or over 2025, which was the Marchant murders. And here in Buffalo, New York, in Western New York, it involved like Native American witchcraft and Ouija boards and murder and mayhem and scandal and all this. So this is not something that is like new, but it is something that's very rarely talked about. Very rarely talked about. So let me ask you this, George, for everybody that is tuning in, let me ask you, George, I've known you for a while. You're a pretty level-headed guy. What? Well, so. Well, you know me, so that
if you say so, it's okay.
Now, George, I got to ask you, for everybody at home, why did you? I mean, yes, okay, you teach about criminology and forensics and all that. Why did you get involved in the whole study of paranormal or occult crimes?
It's a great question, and I'm glad you started with that question. I am closer to the end of my career than I am the beginning. And I thought that I am going to do more of what I truly like, what I truly love. And I've done that throughout my career. But I've always had a lifelong interest in the paranormal, and plus I've spent over 30 years teaching about criminal justice. So I thought, from now on, I'd like to marry the two. And I've loved doing this. I've had the opportunity to speak about this at a couple of Paracons, some groups over the past, I'd say 4 years. So I've enjoyed that very much.
Now, when we talk about paranormal crime, it is sort of a gray, fuzzy area. A lot of people don't really understand what it truly is. Could you explain what you mean by the term paranormal crime or occult crime, or occult crime or esoteric crimes are probably the best way to describe the beginning of it.
I have taught a course titled Occult Crime at the University of Louisville. I've probably taught it 3 or 4 times there in the last 10 years. And you have the occult crime, you have supernatural crime, you have paranormal crime. All 3 of these terms, whether we like it or not, Tim, are pretty much synonymous. There's no, there should be differentiation, but there's not. And so it is what it is. We've got to accept that. Look, paranormal crime to me is any type of crime that is in this class I'm going to teach that uses aspects of the paranormal or the occult as templates or rationale for perpetration. Okay. And we see a lot of that. One of the things I'm going to discuss a lot in class is going to be cult related crimes using the paranormal as a template, the occult. So, yeah, that's probably the best way I can explain that. The terms are pretty much, it shouldn't be occult, comes from occultus. It means a hidden agenda, secret knowledge, so on. Paranormal are going to be phenomena that defy science. Supernatural are going to be those acts that defy nature, defy God. But throughout, I'm going to say the past 30 years, 40 years, these have become melded together. I think it's unfortunate, but like I said, it's where we find ourselves now.
Well, that's pretty. I mean, if you remember back, I don't need, and I hate to, and you and I are closer in age than we want to admit. And the big thing is that if you remember back, first, if you remember back into the 60s and 70s, you remember the birth of the new age, the rebirth of the new age, and all of that came up, and the fear that came through. And then when you started, and again, it was a long time coming. It was a long time being accepted. And I'm talking about paranormal metaphysics. And then you go into something back in the 80s and 90s, going into something called the Satanic Panic. Do you think that we were heavily influenced by, let's say, the Satanic Panic at that time period? Or do you think that this goes back even further? Do you think that this goes back 1800s, 1700s? Do you think what has, okay, let me simplify it for you, George. Let me simplify this question, because I'm going in all different directions, because I just
I think I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
Has there always been some type of occult criminality inherent within the human race?
Okay. Well, not to sound totally like a professor, although that's what I am, let's define crime. Crime is a crime because the state says it's a crime.
Correct.
All right?
Right.
Let's go back to Salem. Okay. You had ladies being accused of witchcraft. It's a crime. Put to death. It was paranormal crime. Okay. If you go to the first great religious revival movement in the United States, the Great Awakening, back in probably, I think it's like the 1840s.
Yes.
That came about. You certainly saw fear of those that were possessed, taken by Satan, used for his nefarious purposes. And there was one case, and this happened in central Kentucky about 1851. I'm going to think it was in Taylor County. A fellow was accused of sexual assault, and his defense was that he was possessed, and the jury didn't buy it. And he was summarily executed. But we've always had this fear. We've always had this fear. And it is oftentimes panic driven,
Right.
Certainly, people, I will equate it to the Red Scare. People are driven by fear, by suspicion, what they don't understand, what they can't see, the occult, what they can't see. And we certainly saw that beginning. If you go back to around 1970.
Correct.
There was a book that came out that it wasn't about the paranormal per se, but it brought eschatology, end-time theology, the book of Revelations into pop culture. It was called The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey.
Yes.
All right, we started discussions of that, and people made the leap from that to start talking about demonology and so on. And that grew. I mean, the 1970s was if you were a writer on the paranormal, you could get published. All right, Hans Holzer, remember him?
Oh yeah, I know his daughter.
I mean, that's when he,
Yep.
his popularity soared right there. And he did great stuff. He did super stuff. But then that takes us up to this. Now, this came out, I should know the dates on this. I don't. It came out right before Satanic Panic. It was called, now this is dating me. Tim doesn't remember when albums were on vinyl, I'm sure.
Oh, I do. Yo, George. Oh, George, I don't want to admit it, but yes, I do.
Do you remember the backmasking?
Yes. Yes, I do.
You'd play a record backwards, and supposedly, you would hear a demonic voice come through and all of that.
Yes.
I honestly believe that if you listen to a record backwards long enough, you're going to hear whatever you want to hear.
Well, that works as the same thing as matrixing and audio matrixing, because of the fact that your brain is made, we're built to make sense out of chaos. So if we're looking for voices, we're going to find voices. So that makes sense. That's perfect sense. Yes.
In my little church, I was brought up in a Southern Baptist church, a small church near Louisville, Kentucky, and very fundamentalist. And we had a youth minister in church that just, everything that was played was backmasked, and I'm talking about, the people that you would expect, Black Sabbath and so on. But he was claiming that Loretta Lynn and Porter Wagner.
Oh my gosh.
And so he was really out there in left field. But he spoke from, unfortunately, a position of authority, the pulpit, and people bought into it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know any better, so they assumed the word of somebody that was an authority, that was supposed to know what they were talking about. Unfortunately, it was the farthest thing from the truth. But that brings us up to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But isn't that just common in human dynamics when we start,
absolutely.
Looking at that? Because we are searching for order, and we're searching for that one seed where we can go and we can grow this order out of chaos, so that we can go and we can present ourselves to, let's say, something on the other side after, a little bit more after death.
I have had, I don't know if this is an example of what you're getting at. Whenever I have done presentations on the subject, or like, I'm sure we'll mention it, I met Tim, for all you folks listening, about 10 years ago when I started up the Paranormal Society at Edinburgh University. And he was very kind to come down and give us the benefit of his wisdom. But I was able to talk and meet people through that, and from the presentations I've given, and I will always have folks come up to me at the end and tell me about one of their experiences, or they're living in a haunted house, whatever. And genuinely, for the most part, they are afraid. They're frightened. Now, I will tell you, I'm one of the world's biggest skeptics. I am. And I think all of this stuff, probably 99%, can be explained away.
Exactly. I agree too. I agree that.
But there's that 1% that gets a little more difficult and challenging. But these people just want somebody to make them feel safe, to validate not necessarily what they believe, but what they're feeling.
Right.
And that's my job. And I think a lot of the people who got involved with the panic of the 70s and 80s were well-intentioned, but, there's that old adage, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Exactly. I agree.
And we're looking back, got the benefit of over, going on 50 years from that time. And I still think we're feeling the influence of, and I'll get into satanic panic in a minute. We're still feeling the influence of satanic panic today.
Yes, we are.
Because so much of what we have seen and this renaissance of interest in the occult, the paranormal, etc., is driven by Hollywood. And that was certainly influenced by, the Satanic Panic, and it made for great fiction.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And we're still dealing with that today. So please go ahead.
Well, no, you know what, George, you made a good point because of the fact that, I mean, let's think about Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan and how that had evolved. A lot of that was all Hollywood. A lot of that was all influenced by the B movies and the Hammer movies and all that came about at that time, and people were searching for something different.
Yes.
And the problem that I see all the time, and especially if you start looking at different religions that may push the Christian religion in some way, all of a sudden now that is creating not a lifeboat for those on the other side, let's say paganism or whatever, but they're creating fear within the different Christian sects, and people are looking for some kind of assurance that everything is going to be good. It all goes back into control. It all goes back into that trying to placate the masses, and I think that's the biggest problem. And Hollywood. And yours truly was a part of the machine there for a while. We all know that that's profit driven. So the more sensationalized something is, the more successful it is. Same thing with the old National Enquirers that used to plaster demons and ghosts and and the Warrens that were out there. That's how they got they got all this PR and everything. They had these massive headlines as you went through the supermarket checkouts. People see this and people are afraid. And the Satanic Panic was something that a lot of people were looking for. And I hate to say it, but a lot of people were looking for a scapegoat because of bad, I will say, mental hygiene. Because how many books were written, George, that people were like, abused as kids or supposedly abused as kids, and then turned around and they realized that they weren't, but during hypnosis these different suggestions were introduced to them. So I mean, you start seeing that across the board, and I mean that's what scared me during that time period.
Well, yeah, me too. I mean, you're looking at early 70s. I wish, Tim, I'd had the books that I had when I was a kid, these, cheap paperbacks about, by Holzer, about the Bermuda Triangle, about Borley Rectory, all these, they were just wonderful books.
Yes.
A lot of fun to read, I'd give anything to have those back. And, I think that, look, if you want to control somebody, you got to make them afraid of something.
Exactly.
And who better to be afraid of? There's no better villain in the world than Satan. He's the father of villains. So you've got that going. Now, was that the intent to make people afraid? I don't know. I think they wanted to generate fear, those that were sincere, as a warning of what to beware of. But you see, the thing about the Church of Satan and LaVey, theirs wasn't really, as I understand it, and you get so many conflicting reports, their theology really is based more on hedonism than fear.
Correct.
Anything goes.
Yes.
Anthony LaVey, love him or hate him, was a very talented showman. He did great PR. And he got hooked in with enough members of the Hollywood scene to give his little church, I don't know if legitimacy is the right word, but certainly a certain amount of recognition. I mean, look at, for those of you who do remember, Law and Order, Special Victims Unit, Mariska Hargitay is a star. Her mother was the actress Jane Mansfield. Now, Jane Mansfield was a member of the Church of Satan. She and LaVey got on the outs about something. Well, LeVay dismissed her from the church, or Mansfield left something, but LeVay said that he had placed a curse on her. And a few weeks, maybe a month or so later, I'm not sure the timeline, she was driving with her children in Louisiana. She got into a car wreck and was decapitated. Now, LeVay got all kinds of publicity about that. And people started taking his movement seriously. It was he had nothing to do with that. It was just an accident. And
Exactly.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. So you've got the Church of Satan. I think that has been useful for criminals, perpetrators to use as a template. But as far as having any real impact, I don't think so. And the criminal investigators I've talked to certainly don't think so.
Well, it's almost like when you start looking at a lot of the cartels. You go into Central America and you see all these ruined shrines, and they're like, "What were why are these shrines ruined?" Well, they were shrines to Santa Muerte, the bone goddess, and she is the god of the patron saint, a folk saint of the downtrodden. And now, of course, they're homogenizing her image, but a lot of people will go and say they did this ritual. They killed all these people and left them in a warehouse or whatever. They did this to appease the bone goddess. And it's not really so much that, it's just, I think it's a lot of it is people looking for that control. And by going and associating yourself with this type of a deity, this control, this fear over your people, over the masses, is what starts to happen. And you start getting people who become adherents, and they become almost like lapdogs. They will do anything. They will do anything. And that includes murder, mayhem, or whatever. And we have, even today, we have suicide people, we have our bombers, we have suicide people going out there, just having armies, basically having armies out there in the field that are all part of these cartel movements, which a lot of times are part of a religious movement. So, George, my question to you is, when we start looking at a lot of this crime, a lot of this criminality, do you think that we should be encouraging the belief systems once they're behind bars? Because I know the church, I know a public relations person for the Church of Satan, and I do know a little bit about Santa Muerte and how they have ministers that go into the different prisons in Mexico and Central America. Do you think that we should, as a society, be encouraging this? Or do you think that what we're doing is we're allowing the religious views and trying to separate it away from the negative and the people who are trying to go and, I guess, pervert the original concept of what has been set forth?
You've got to be careful there. Religion is probably going to be one of the most unifying factors and also polarizing factors in prison life.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And absolutely. It gives inmates, it's a very positive thing. Okay. It can be. Mm-hmm. It gives people hope who have, at the end of their rope, they have something to hold on to. Okay. Something to believe in, where they could feel free beyond the prison walls. Okay. Malcolm X certainly wrote about that.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so did the Apostle Paul.
Yep. Yes.
And so you've got that, and it's a very positive thing. But if you tried to get rid of people practicing a faith, that would probably be absolutely the worst thing you could do, because that's going to push people towards it. It'll become an underground movement. I would rather have that out to where I could see it and monitor it and know its extent than to have it growing insidiously like weeds. You have to be very careful there. Now, do I
Agreed.
think that crime groups have bastardized religion? I think they've used it certainly to control the masses, especially those who, like in third world countries, are not well educated or not literate, and they will do things which are blasphemous, which shocks people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've got the Christian cross, Crux Capitata, the most revered sign in all of Christendom, and everyone can recognize it. But you've also got the inverted cross, and anybody who sees that, if you've got any kind, you don't even have to be a practicing Christian for that to probably make you a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So if folks see this, and they automatically think, well, what person could do this? They can't understand that. Anybody that would do this has to be under the influence of the demonic, of Satan. So the people that did that they've grown in estimation in the eyes of the folks they're trying to victimize. There's no question.
Absolutely.
No question.
Absolutely. Let me change gears a little bit. Let's talk about cult crimes. You know, in this society, we look at a lot of people who have become disenfranchised with everything. And a lot of it could be anything from the breakdown of the nuclear family to just being disenchanted with our government or with our social order as it is. Why do you think that people gravitate? And we start looking at like even Heaven's Gate, and that whole case. Why do you think people seem to gravitate towards these leaders? Is it just that they're so charismatic, or is there something more to it?
I think a lot of the times, I think charisma certainly, it becomes a part of it. You had a little Austrian house painter ended up leading the world into a disastrous Second World War. He wasn't much to look at. His ideas weren't all that novel, but he had charisma, whether you wanted to admit it or not. And he led his entire nation down a path they still regret traveling. You got Jim Jones, Jonestown.
Yes.
Okay, look at his followers. These were people that they were damaged goods. And I'm not talking about the quality of the person. I'm just talking about what they've gone through.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100%.
Divorce, loss of a child, loss of a spouse, horrible tragedies, financial difficulties, disappointed with how their life has turned out. And they're in a pit. And they're wanting somebody to give their life some meaning or explain why they are in the condition they are in. Give them something to believe in. Say, come and follow me. Okay? I can show you the way, a better way. And that's a messianic message. You had that with Jim Jones. You had that with, what was it? Was it Applegate? With Heaven's Gate?
Yeah.
And then you look, David Koresh.
Yes.
Branch Davidians. That's the same message. It's the same message.
Would you go and consider Waco as part of a paranormal or occult crime that it resulted in it because of, yes, we know that there were many, many mistakes that were made there. Although when we start looking at that lowest denominator, that lowest little thing, it was about illegal firearms.
No, and I'll tell you why. There wasn't a lot of if there was any occult imagery around Waco, I don't know it. There was never anything dealing with the supernatural other than the belief in God. Although, the Branch Davidian dogma, certainly much different than mainline Christianity.
Well, the only reason I always think about that is because early on, I think before Koresh, I forget the woman's name when she died, and they were going to bring her. They prayed over her, and she was going to come back to life.
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, and that's why it always stuck with me that there was something occult orientated with that whole situation.
Well, if you go that route, you're going to have to talk about, it was Christ bringing back Lazarus from the dead.
Yes.
Occult. You could consider it supernatural, perhaps. I don't know about occult, but I'd say probably supernatural. Because when it comes to the occult, you got to have that imagery.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you've got the paranormal, you've got the supernatural, you've got the what. Okay. If you've got the occult, then you're dealing with the how, ritual, in order to affect that phenomenon.
Right.
Do I think? No, I would not say that. I would not say that the Branch Davidians dealt in the paranormal or even the occult, especially in the last few years when Koresh was in control. No.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Oh no, the reason why I brought that up was because of the fact that so many people seem to equate the Branch Davidians with something other than Christianity. And that's where I was hoping that you went right where I wanted you to go. I wanted, that it was not a total occult hidden crime where I've seen it written in some books that they did consider it, but I agree with you 100%. I don't believe that it was. Now, let me ask you about this. People seem to be using paranormal, occultism, whatever, as excuses, as the devil made me do it type of thing in courts. Is this something that is relatively new, or do you think that this has been going on since we've had courts and we've had
that case I mentioned in 1851 case I mentioned back in Taylor County, Kentucky. Okay. And you've certainly had that. You had, there wasn't, let's face it, the Salem witch trials did not have or allow a lot of defense for the accused.
No.
But what was there was certainly, they were attributing the supposed behavior of the woman in question to being possessed. So I think that has always been used.
Now,
and a lot of this stuff, there are two genuine paranormal crimes. Well, not crimes. Instances of where ghosts have entered into the deliberations of a jury.
Yes.
Okay. One was 1897 West Virginia case of Zona Heaster Shute, who appeared, she was a young bride that was murdered by her husband, but he got off. She was strangled. Supposedly she appeared in a dream to her mother. Her mother convinced the authorities to exhume her daughter's body. They found out that her neck was indeed broken. Her husband was tried, convicted, and before he could be executed, died in the Spanish flu epidemic. And that would have been about 1915. You go back before that, that's going to be 1827. It's going to be the Red Barn case in the UK. Trying to think about who the victim was there. Oh, I took a note of this. Her name was Maria Martin, and she was murdered by her lover, William Corder. And some say that she was pregnant by him. Others say that she kept pestering him to run off. Regardless, once again, Maria's ghost appeared to her stepmother in a dream, telling where her body could be found. They had never located Maria's body, and they found the body on the stepmother's direction. Now, there are two specific cases where that is outright The supernatural has been credited
Mm-hmm.
as far as solving a case, but that is very, very rare. That, to my knowledge, those are the only two cases I could ever come up with.
Now, a lot of times people go and George definitely knows that I'm a talking board collector, and it always amazes me when people use that as a defense. Or are you familiar with the case in England, I believe, where a judgment, or they had it, or I think it was some type of jury, I believe it was in the UK, where the jury consulted a Ouija board to see if if the person was guilty or not?
No, but I've known of that happening. I've known of sequestered juries playing around with it.
It's amazing.
I would have, you're just asking for something to be thrown out. I mean, that has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of anybody doing. If you're wanting to look for a conviction or try to be true to the process. But no, I've heard of juries doing that, jury members doing that, not necessarily the entire jury.
Now, another one that I've always been fascinated by is the vampire killing in Kentucky. It to me, it was just like a bunch of youths that were gothic and they were on the outside of society that got together. But for some reason, the more I read about that, the more it became something a little bit more than just a crime of opportunity and a crime of passion for that whole thing. Do you think that this whole, the whole idea of them becoming vampires, becoming blood drinkers, becoming immortal, let's say, was so overpowering and so appealing that they would do whatever? Or do you think that something like that would have just been just kids just going out of control, basically going out of control?
I think it could be both. I mean, you've got clinical vampirism. I mean, it is a condition.
Correct. Yes.
And the two most famous cases of vampirism would probably be going back to Richard Chase, the Vampire of Sacramento, back in the 70s. And before that, the most famous would be in Germany, the Vampire of Dusseldorf. And that is going to be Peter Curtin. Now, the Kentucky crime, what I think you're seeing there, you had the core leadership, and albeit it was a very small group, they had some unresolved mental issues. Now, for people who are listening, y'all are saying, no doubt, same thing I would, no kidding, But I don't think that was ever addressed in the detail it needed to be. Not that you could doubt that was an excuse.
Right.
But in order to help explain the motivations of the perpetrators. But these were kids that were, look, if you looked into all of their backgrounds, I'll guarantee you all of their backgrounds had serious issues as far as upbringing pathologies that were never fully addressed. I think that has so much to do with it.
Do you feel that society and even the court system is just kind of dumping these terms and these just for a better way of saying it, excuses?
I don't know what the court system is. I think that a lot of times an irresponsible media is, so they get picked up by the court system. All right. No, I don't think so. Like, one of the things that I've had some students contact me about this course. What will I be covering? What will I be talking about? This and that. And I've tried to, share with them the high points. They want to know how much time am I going to devote to the use of mediums by the criminal justice system. And I said there will be some. But once again, You've got to be very careful here. That does not happen with the frequency some people would like to believe. Does it happen? Yes, it does.
Or
But
or
not very
some
often at
medium
all.
or some medium self promotions.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, look,
Oh
if
my
you got
God.
no detective is ever going to admit they contacted a medium. Not going to happen. Okay, that's a good way to end your career.
Yes, exactly.
And if they were to be brought on, they would be at best unpaid consultants. Which you might as well, if you're an unpaid consultant, you might as well, I don't know, hang out up at the Starbucks and just give people your advice when they come through the door. It doesn't mean much.
Well, this is something that I think it's not so prevalent now, but I would say about a decade ago, it was very, very prevalent where they were people, I mean, in their PR packages, they were saying, I was a consultant with this police department, this police department, this police department. Yet when you contacted that police department, you would say, did so-and-so consult on this case? They would deny it immediately. Now,
Yeah.
Unofficially, I mean, I've worked on missing persons cases, and it actually was a homicide case through a church, but it was unsolicited. So that means the police did not come out and ask us. Media did not come out and ask us. This was a volunteer thing that people, I think if I'm not mistaken, one of the girls' aunts had disappeared. And I'm not going to say whether we were close or not close. It doesn't matter. But the whole idea is that it's Hollywood. Hollywood is what is filling the viewers' minds with all this gobbledygook that mediumship and psychics are so powerful that they can go and they can contact the other side to get this information. And I'm going to be honest with you, I believe up to a point you can, but not at the rate that they're showing in TV or in so many of the fictional books, George. And I think this is the problem. And as somebody who has done psychic walkthroughs through murder locations, I mean, I can hit some things, but I can't go, and I have not been able to go and reach through the veil and say, oh, well, this is what happened, or this. No, you can pick up bits and pieces. And I would never go, and I would never say that that as a medium, I would do that. And I think that mediums do a disservice to themselves by going and proclaiming that they help the police. It's just, it's all it is a PR grab. That's all it is in my book. Of course, I was brought up a little bit differently, but I mean, I think that was a PR grab.
Well, because you got a certain degree of honor and ethics that are surrounding what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. Look, you forget the part about them doing the service to themselves. You've got a grieving family. But want to know where their kid is.
Yes.
Who did it, or why they did it, or where they're at. Would do anything in the world. And then you've got, excuse me, a charlatan that's out there promoting their own shtick for their own benefit, and they're doing it for money. They might not necessarily be charging anybody right then and there, but through this, they might take a wild guess and get lucky. Holy cow, now they're on the circuit. People are paying them a lot of money for their predictions, which are a joke.
And this is where you have to be a skeptic. And this is why I love when you said you're a skeptic, because of the fact that even as a medium myself, trained, hardcore ethics, the whole thing back, from the National Spiritual churches. But you have to be a skeptic. You can't take anything. You can't take anything as absolute truth in that field. You can't do it. It's wrong to do that. And for someone to go and contact victims or the family of victims, that is so unethical that it is disgusting to me. But yet people do it. And I hear about that constantly. People have come up to me and said, well, so-and-so said that, my cousin was murdered by this person. And I'm like, Show me. Find the evidence. You know what? Tell that medium to go back and say, "Hey, listen, give me a shred of evidence so that I can go and we can prove this. We can prove it. You got to give me evidence. Don't just give me the scenario, because in your own, all you got to do is read the newspaper or listen to the news, and you can make a story up to go with it."
And I've seen the last year and a half. I felt the need. I really have never done this before, even though I've had an interest in the paranormal and all that. It's always been from more of a folklorist perspective. I love going places, love a good story. That's my take on it, and that's what drives me. But for the last year and a half, I felt the need to talk with mediums, talk with a psychic, talk with a shaman, to healer, just to see what their take is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a wonderful journey, working with the folks that I have had the pleasure to work with. A medium out in Chardon, Ohio, Bobby Sumik, a shaman here in the Cleveland area, Neil Spatura, and Elizabeth Meacham, who's a nature healer. They've been wonderful folks. They're very sincere about what they do.
Yes.
And the difference between these folks that I've been blessed to know and the horrible people that we've been discussing, they're the equivalent of ambulance chasing attorneys. They see a tragedy, and they're drawn to it like a magnet.
Yes.
And it gives people like you a bad name, because you're attached to them by the term medium. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
By the way, the last time I saw you in person was a couple of months ago now, I guess, at Hen Mansion in Cleveland. And I thought your readings there that evening were excellent. They were very good.
Oh, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
People always. I'm a little bit more of a showboater when it comes to open readings like that, but I do take what I do seriously. But
you had fun with it, and you can take stuff seriously and still have fun with it.
No, that's exactly the way I think. Now,
and if you're not going to have fun, why do it?
But that's the way I feel. But now the bottom line is, George, if people are laughing and are happy, they're more apt to take the gist of the message rather than just the outer shell. But now you're talking about putting together a podcast. Tell everybody about that, because this is fascinating. There really isn't. I'm a podcast guy. I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts every single night before I go to sleep. Tell people about your idea for this great podcast.
Well, I was talking to Tim about this for you folks listening in before the show, and I'd sent him a message last week telling him a few things about what I'd like to do or emphasize in the program tonight. And one of them is my interest in putting together a podcast on the general topic of paranormal crime, understanding that it could be fixated on the occult, of the supernatural, all sorts of things. And probably start out like a half-hour program, I don't know, once or twice a week, and go from there. I would try to have guests probably at some point. I'd like to interview detectives and doctors and nurses. I mean, I've got one lady, she was a hospice nurse. And these people are truly angels on earth.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
But she had a patient, and he had he had family, but they wanted absolutely nothing to do with him. This was one of these guys. One of the things I'm going to focus on in class, Tim, is do it the first week, is the notion of evil. Okay. And this guy according to her, he was evil. And in his final hours, he started confessing and getting stuff off his chest. And she brought in 2 other people to listen to make sure she got the stories right. And as a result, they were able to find a body of someone he had murdered. Now, the body had been buried for over 50 years. He'd done it when he was a teenager. But these are the sorts of things and people I would like to bring in
I think that'd
and
be
talk about.
fascinating. That would be absolutely fascinating, George.
I
Absolutely
would like to be
fascinating.
able to discuss, and it's not just going to be telling war stories. I want to be able to use and analyze who the people were, where they came from, and why they did what they did.
The profile, something of this nature, is got to be an amazing journey to sit down and open this. I'm going to call it a can of worms, because every case is different. Every person is different. Everybody that does something is different. Circumstances are different. Do you think that do you, do you think that you'll ever get a good handle on it, George? Do you think, or do you think it's just going to keep? It's going to be like just ball of wax and just keep building as it rolls along?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult question to answer for several reasons. Number one, I don't want to admit, you know, that it's still alive, it's still escaping me, which it is. It is. It is. It exponentially builds.
Yeah,
Just when I think I've got a handle on one thing, something else will pop up to contradict it.
that's
The behavior.
exactly the way it is. But that's the
So,
paranormal too. That's
and you've
exactly
got
what the
to
paranormal is.
get to the point to where you're making sense out of the chaos.
Right.
Okay, and you don't try to. You explain what you can explain. You do justice to the topic, justice to the story, and justice to the reader or to the listener. Allow them to draw their own conclusions. If you believe in something, share it with them. They may agree with you, they may not, but you do an honest job by them. That's what I want to do.
I think you're the man for it.
No, I appreciate that, and
Tell, every, tell
I've had a
everybody
wonderful day.
tell everybody about why, or I should say, tell everybody that's interested in this class or be able to go and want you to come and speak at one of their conferences or a podcast, how they can contact you.
Very simply, just contact me at the university. It's not Edinburgh University anymore. Let me mention that really
Penn
quick.
West, yes.
It's Pennsylvania Western University. We combined with Clarion, California a few years ago. My email is grichards@pennwest, PENNWEST.edu. And I'm also on Facebook under the Paranormal Professor.
How come I'm not friends with you on underneath the Paranormal?
I invited you. You told me get lost. You only dealt with professionals.
I don't think so, George. I don't think so.
I'm giving Tim grief. We've got to hook up on that. Tim is, let me tell you, for you guys that are wanting a mentor in this field, you can ask for a better guy than Tim Shaw. Seriously, I appreciate that.
George, I don't know much. I just think I've lived long enough to find a few things. I'm sort of like you. We stumble along the way, we find our interests, and we just keep going with it. And we don't ever find anything. You know what, George? What I love about you is you're a lot like me when it comes to that. We explore. To us, it's just another adventure every day. Anytime that you find something, anytime that you go and you see something that interests you, you see that little silver. We're like raccoons. You see that little silver ball of tinfoil. You have to go and you have to look at it. You have to examine it. And that's what life should be all about.
I've got to be very, I've always felt like I'm a private person by nature, but I've always felt that if I'm going to discuss things with you, we're going to talk, you need to get to know a little bit about me and where I'm coming from. This has become, my attitude has changed. When I was younger, I was like everybody else who was young. You dreamt of fame and fortune and all of that stuff. As I've gotten older, I've found more of what's truly important. And it's not about me. It's about the work. And it's about building a legacy. From 2011 to 2022, I had 11 months there where I had 4 things happen that could have killed me. I had an aneurysm, 2 strokes, and I had a quadruple bypass. And I was, by the end of it, and that was started in September of 11 and ended in August of 22, that bout, I was not in the best of shape.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of friends reach out to me, and they were encouraging me to do this stuff, because I talked about doing it for years. And they said, this is the stuff that you want to do. If you don't do it, it may not get done. So I
True.
felt like, and that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm
True.
doing it. And I hope that I'm going to be able to add something that somebody else could come along and build on later.
That is what is about the pursuit of knowledge. It's not finding the goal. It's never reaching the pinnacle. What's important is the building of it. It's every rock, every stone, everything that we go through, every, I thank God every time I come across an interesting article. Every time I go and I find a photograph that may tie into something that I'm working on. Because what are we going to leave behind? All I care about leaving behind is just maybe somebody, all I want to do is spark somebody's interest. That's all.
I hope that through my work, I've been able to reach some students. I think I have.
Oh, I think
in a positive way, both here and in India. I have lost any and all desire to ever see a pigeon. How can I put this delicately? To ever see a pigeon take a dump on a statue of me. Okay, that's not about me anymore. It's about the work, Tim.
Exactly.
And it's about the good you leave behind. Each day, one of the things that coincides with what I'm trying to do now, and I'm a certified chaplain, but I'm also going to be being a life coach. And I need to stay with this stuff here. If you get caught up in the hyperbole, you too can get dragged along.
Yes, you can.
So I try to stay grounded, and that's by having a frequent prayer life. Meditation in the morning, prayer throughout the day when I feel the need to do so, and to no longer be ashamed of doing that. There was a time when I was. I will readily admit that. And I'm not talking about this to proselytize to anybody necessarily. That's not my purpose here. It's to explain me and where I'm coming from.
Exactly. I agree. But so many people, this is, and we're running out of time. See, I told you, George, you wouldn't have to worry about filling that out.
I was worried about filling the time. Yeah, I'm running off at the mouth there. Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about it. But last thing, you know what, George? The big problem that I see is that too many people put so much off for another day. They always have excuses. They never fulfill what they want. And when I started going, and I've met a couple people that have worked with hospice or death doulas, and one of the big things that when the hospice will go around and they will ask the patients, do you regret anything? And it's like, I regret not doing A, B, C, and D when I had the time. And you know what? Right then and there, you have to take the time. You take care of everything that you live. You have to live right. You have to do it. But then you have to find a way to do it. And too many people are just giving up their time so easily and not going and accomplishing anything that they feel is important.
I'm going to leave one thing. I'm glad that you mentioned that. The things that people regret. There's a lot of things that people have in common in a life they wish they'd done.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that pretty much everybody regrets is not doing what they had a passion for. And I waited for years. I had this, I had an interest in the paranormal back in college. I'd given anything if I'd have kept up with it. But I was told, and rightly so, by the people that were advising me to drop it because I'd never be taken seriously as an academic.
True. That's true. I remember those days.
I'm not going to do. It was still the same case. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do what I love. Fortunately, I've got family and friends that care about me, love me, support me. It means the world. People like you that I've come to know. And that gives me strength to do it. But if anybody's out there listening, I don't care if you're 18 or 68 or 108, whatever. If you've got a passion, find a way to keep doing it. Nothing more than a hobby. It's going to make your life so much richer. And I'll close on that note.
Absolutely, George. George, thank you for being on. Stay on the line for a couple seconds, and I'll thank you properly off the air. I appreciate it. It was great. This is a fantastic show. Guys,
thank you very much.
I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight because of the fact that this is such an important show. And you know what? It's nice to know that we're all part of a community, of a group. And you know, it doesn't matter what we're doing. It doesn't matter our interests. What matters is the fact that we are following what we want and what we need. And that's what's so great about it. So guys, listen, till next week. It could be Christmas, I know. So I got a special show for you guys for Christmas. Till next week. You've been listening to the Black Cat Lounge here, where the elite meet next to the dumpster transfer station. Guys, take care, be kind to each other, support each other. Ciao, babies. Good night. Bye-bye.